I'm glad that they were affected and hurt. There's a lot of college football teams right now that have teams that the kids don't care. Like when people hurt, you usually get a better response, right? You get a better mechanism of buy-in or doubling down on something or of knowing who I am and knowing what I have to work on. That was Kirby Smart on Monday, his only media availability with live reporters this week. Hopefully, we'll get him twice next week. We'll see about that. But that's what he had to say after some reflection on Monday after the Alabama game, a game that maybe some of y'all watched and with your So Poly outdoor furniture. Make sure that you're checking them out. They're really that's a really important and awesome partnership that we've got with them. Check them out every day. Use the code Dean10 for free shipping and 10% off. And Kirby's talking about uh, you know doing this and being affected and I would say my word would be bothered by it. He said when people hurt, you usually get better response. Um, I think I think Georgia is at a point here where this season can go one of two ways. They can continue to struggle like they have, frankly, for the last 11 or so games since the Florida game of last year. They can either do that or they can come start playing to their ability and the level at which they are capable of playing. They are not playing at the level that they need to play to win championships. You don't have to in September, but you don't want to. Well, it's about to be October right now. You do not want to be knocked out of the playoff race before you go to Jacksonville, and that could happen to this Georgia team if they don't play better. So, with Kirby saying, "I'm glad they were affected and hurt." There's a lot of college football teams right now that have teams the kids don't care. Well, that's not the standard, right? I mean, like Georgia need if you're going to talk about the standard all the time, that's what the players talk about. That's what Kirby talks about. Then it should be that they're affected. It should be that they're bothered. These guys are going out there for 9 months from the time this team sort of formed at the end or middle of January and on. They've been out there for months working and so forth. Uh, it should bother them that they did not play as well as they could or should these last two games. Just that's what it really the last three games. They played pretty well against Marshall. So that's not, it's not always easy to play well all the time. In fact, typically you don't play well all the time. But Georgia's got to start playing better, and they have a real opportunity this week because Kentucky's pretty bad. And I don't want to, like the talking points are awesome. They're just not, really, they're not hitting this week. And you've got to. We're being honest with y'all. Y'all are our audience. We need y'all. And look, this is not a good Kentucky team. They are on the tipping point right now. Now, with that said, the 2019 South Carolina team was pretty bad, and they beat Georgia. So if you got a 4 turnover game to roll out there, maybe this is not the one to do it. But you never want to do that, and that's what happened that day. And Carolina just really coming in. Playing really well. The hardest part of sales isn't closing today. It's simply getting the conversation started and landing the first meeting. And I am telling you this because I know it, okay? Business to business communication channels are so saturated and noisy, y'all, that it's tough for founders, business owners, and sales leaders to get the foot in the door. Let Sales Hatch, our today's partner, do the hard part for you. Handle the cold calling, the email calls, direct mail, everything needed to consistently put partners in front of new prospects. The goal is simple. Think about this. Let Sales Hatch deliver 3 to 4 new qualified meetings every single week so that they can focus, so that business leaders can focus on closing deals. That is the hardest part, is getting your foot in the door. If you need to contact somebody, how do you contact them? Let Sales Hatch get that part done for you, okay? And the part that Georgia and Kirby need to do is go out there and play well. That's got to happen on Saturday. They need to play well. If you're not going to play well, then there's a real problem. And if you go back and think about it, I'm going to write about this a little bit more. And Jonathan, shout out Jonathan. I'm not going to use last names in this case. You know who you are. Georgia hasn't had the lead after the first quarter in a long time in a legitimate football game. They didn't lead against Alabama at the first, Tennessee at the first, Notre Dame at the end of the first. The Texas game at the end of the first, the Georgia Tech game, the Tennessee game, and I think Florida, the Ole Miss game, no. But anyway, certainly since the Tennessee game on in 2024, they have not had the lead after the first quarter. What is going on that's the case? Like, that's too extreme. That's too. You would expect it to be the other way. So they've consistently been coming out from behind. That is not what you want to do. This stadium on Saturday night was ready to explode at any moment. There was too much going on. There was way too much going on. The wristbands, all right. The movie soundtrack, that was horrible. I'm just going to say it. I'm not even going to hold back anymore. Look, you can't change that much stuff in a small amount of time. And if you closed your eyes, it was not certain that Georgia was playing. You wouldn't know it. I mean, the movie thing, maybe that works on third downs only or big third downs, third and longs, whatever. But that thing, it was like it was playing all the time. I go to a lot of stadiums. I've done this for a while. It was too much. They need to let the fans do their thing. And when you cannot hear the public address announcer, who does a pretty good job of modulating his voice and doing all of those things, you get out of rhythm, it feels like. And that was left-footed. Now, that wasn't the reason they lost the game, but I've just way too many people have complained to me like I have control over that. That was bad. And so that needs to be adjusted. I would not use that again anytime soon. I would not do that. I would let it be like it usually is. And, let Sanford be Sanford rather than trying to overdo it. I mean, you can overcorrect with things. And I think that's what happened on Saturday. The university or whoever's in control of it, they understood that a year ago at this time, it wasn't good enough. And now we've kind of gone to another extreme, it seems, which is it's too much. I've had several people say they're not going back anytime soon because of, specifically because of the movie thing. So they're affected. They're bothered. What was the Kirby quote? Affected and hurt. They're just annoyed. They're annoyed that, Georgia's not playing well the way they should be playing well. And, this is not an untalented team. This is a team that has a lot of skill, a lot of, things that they're doing that matter. This team totally can win the national championship. That's not the question at all. But they've got to get things right. They cannot continue to beat themselves up the way that they are. Most of these things are, I would say, self-inflicted. And they've played a lot of good teams lately. They have. They played, we don't know about Tennessee and Alabama this year. But all of the teams that I mentioned, Tennessee, Texas, and Notre Dame, all playoff teams, so they're good. But at the same time, just because someone's good doesn't mean that you can't be dominant or at least competitive in a more competitive way at the start. So it's the challenge for this coaching staff is not a small one. I get that. It's not. But you're at Georgia. And the point here is to go out and dominate as much as possible. You're not going to dominate all the time. Alabama's got it's got Kirby Smart's number for sure. And I think it's, important. This Kentucky game is important. You're not going to hear me talk about Auburn the way I am Kentucky because those situations are different. Auburn, they need to get out of there with a win. Kentucky is different. They need to play well in that game. That's a game. This Saturday is a game where there's going to be a lull there. It's not going to be full. And the people at the University of Georgia that are paid by the University of Georgia better not say a word about fans. This is not the time to do that. This is not the appropriate time to do that. So I know what they're getting into. I can say it, but they're not paying my salary. Okay? I can say it because what I just said. So it's not going to be full. And if they get up big, people are going to leave. And that's their prerogative. I heard a lot of complaints about that. A lot. A lot of complaints about both those things. And that's what happens when you lose all of the stuff that has been talked about, and sort of people let it slide because you were winning. That's the way I'll put it. They're not going to go for that over time. And that's the part that if I were, Georgia and everybody, I just make, and I'm talking about Josh, Kirby, Jerry. I mean, Jerry, really doesn't ever say anything, but I would be very cognizant that fans are jumpy right now. Georgia fans they're not like Kentucky. Kentucky fans have given up. I know that fan base a little bit. I don't know it in a great way, like I do kind of Carolina, Clemson, Tech, Florida. But I know the Kentucky fan base because of the history I've got with folks that I've known for decades now, and know some of the writers up there. It is all but done at Kentucky for Stoops. And so if Georgia jumps out and beats on them pretty good, I would not be surprised by Kentucky really having a bad day. But I think it's just not about Kentucky, it's about Georgia. What are they going to do to get the job done? And, I'm certain that those guys are affected. And I can't, we don't get to see practices, and that's Kirby's call. But I would imagine that Monday and Tuesday were pretty good practices. And if they're not, then the kids, it ain't always the coaches, man. At some stage, the kids got to do it too. I mean, teams, I have no issue, criticizing the coaching at Georgia. It's not been good enough. It certainly was not against Alabama. But they're not getting, the kids are not responding to their message at the beginning of the games. It seems like, I don't know. But that's what they're paid, millions and millions of dollars to do. But it's everything. It's the kids too. The kids got to get going as well. Now, you don't want to overreact to a 3-point loss to somebody that you've really not beaten very much lately. But at the same time, you have to recognize that while that's in the past, what matters right now is what's in front of you today. In this case, practice on, by the time you're watching this, practice on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the Kentucky game. The Kentucky game is important. I told y'all how important the Marshall game was. It's an important game. So I have no doubt about who will win the game. But at the same time, I think that, Kentucky is step one to going 3-0 before the break. Georgia should go 3-0 before the break. And if they do, then you're talking about a very different set of circumstances, because the end of the season is still challenging with a road trip to State, Texas. I'll probably forget somebody. A road trip to State. We got the Gators. Okay, I guess I'm just glossing over. That will be a tricky enough game as it is, just because it always is. You got to go to State before you host Texas. Gimme game, and then you got Tech. The Tech game could be an elimination game for the playoff, for one of the two or both. So it's about getting right. It's certainly not as bad as people are making things out to be. I mean, Georgia should have won the game against Alabama. They didn't. They should have, though. And that's a problem too. So all of these things, if people are hurt and affected by it, yeah. I mean, it's college football. It's important to people, and it's up to Kirby Smart, the head coach, and the players both. It's both, but it's the players come and go, and so it really is up to Kirby to get this right.